Chapter 20, 2-month vacation. When we got into the car, I asked Moshe in Hebrew how they knew to give me my address to the airport faculty. He said that one of the workers came out with my name written on a placard, for which reason Moshe approached him and gave him the address. Almost like a celebrity, I felt. As we drove, I looked around in wonderment on these wooden-built houses in all kinds of colors, yellow, red, and orange. In Israel, most of the houses are exclusively made out of brick, so it was fascinating. We finally came to the house. My aunt's house was spacious, decorated, and a 2-story house. It was remodeled since last I visited at age 4. I was shown my room, which was big with beautiful furniture royally stationed there. Beside the furniture, there were 2 beds to the side of the wall. One was mine and the other was Grandma's. Like before, when we lived in apartment 404, I was sleeping in the same room as Grandma. I was instructed to change my clothes into a skirt. I had no skirt in my tiny suitcase, so my aunt and I had to go shopping for new clothes. None of the clothes I had were appropriate. Before we had to do that, I entered my room and saw scales there. Oh, great, let me just stand on it and confirm my weight, I thought. I calmly, with frisk, took off my shoes, settled in, stood on the scales, and it showed me the number 90. 90 kilo? I thought in supreme concern. No, I'm just imagining. Let me stand on the scales again. I tried to calm myself as my heart started to pump in tempestuous rhythm. The scales showed still stubborn 90. That's it. I was spooked to the extreme. I got off the scales and started pinching my stomach in horror, looking at the mirror. I turned into an elephant overnight. What did I eat wrong? All kinds of terrifying thoughts passed my head that boys wouldn't like me anymore, and I almost literally had the urge to poop out of horror. I worked so hard to keep myself in shape, and weighing between 40 and 45 kilos, I gained 40 kilos almost overnight. I felt in complete disbelief and refusal to accept my reality. I started crying hysterically and calling my aunt's name to save me and do something. Take me to the hospital or something to let me drop 45 kilos just as fast as I gained it. Cut me up into shreds. 90 kilos, all right. Anna! Anna! I screamed in despair. What? She ran down the stairs in a panic, looking at me with wide eyes. I held what seemed to me my flabby, overinflated stomach and yelled in a shrieking cry. Anna, I weigh 90 kilo! 90 kilo, can you believe? Oh my God, can you do something? Now, I'm so fat! My aunt looked at me for a couple of seconds in confusion, first unblinkingly, but then she blinked, and all of a sudden, as if a light bulb clicked over her head, she started laughing, cracking up, and holding her tummy out of laughter. I was in deep distress, and just as much as I was in distress, she was laughing so hard, going out of breath, almost falling to the floor. Not only did she not do anything about it and sympathize with my horror, she was jeering at my distress. What? I screamed as her hyena laughing was making me feel increasingly insulted, and my tears were growing denser. Alina, she laughed some more. I think you are out of your mind. Why? Don't you think it's a bit disturbing gaining 45 kilos overnight? I demanded to know as if I was the hostess of the house. Thankfully, Moshe wasn't at home. America, she couldn't stop her laughing. America what? Rajaruje, give a birth to it already, I yelled in urgency. America has a different system of measurement. She finally pulled it together. Oi, this is a circus, she mumbled to herself as her eyes were full of laughter tears out of laughing so hard. She couldn't get straight to the point. She had to go through all of these roundabout terminologies while it was exploding out of trauma as she was laughing for a torturous 10 minutes. What different system of measurement? There's only one system of measurement across the entire world, I contested, while pulling my index finger out of my direct fist, emphasizing the word one. America has different, she confidently and calmly this time said, finally trying to connect with me and soothe my hysteria. America goes by pounds, she further explained. So how many kilos do I weigh if I'm 90 pounds? I started wiping my tears, and my heart gradually started calming down. Pounds are about twice as much as kilos. She sounded like a school professor. So are you saying every time I get on the scale I have to see these overinflated numbers lurking over my head? I asked in puzzlement and much inconvenience. You will get used to it, she answered. Why does America go by a different system of measurement? What's wrong with ours, meaning the rest of the world's measurement? I asked, dumbfounded. I don't know. Ask them, she answered as a matter of fact. You know what? Now it is my perfect time to ask. Dear American readers, what in the world is wrong with the metric system? Why did only United States out of the entire world consciously decided to take matters into its own hands and create these over-confusing measurements? Are you surprised why you didn't get to the moon first? These stupid measurements are one of the reasons. I will tell you confidently. So many mistakes and explosions in the scientific arena are invited to happen for these idiotic measurements. I have no idea what a mile, Fahrenheit, inch, foot, or yard is. I can't picture it in my head. Quite frankly, I don't care to know. I'm not going to twist my head over this nonsense. A foot is measured over some king's foot. How egotistical is that? Why can't we adapt an entire nation's measurement to the size of my hands and feet to make it easier on me? My foot is actually not 3.5 inches. Is a different measurement, which I don't understand. Don't care. Let that be a foot. Why am I less important? Whatever. Don't know. Don't care. I would suggest you eliminate the entire ridiculousness and go by what the rest of the world goes by. But who am I to dictate a whole nation? I would say America has created this stupidity to horrify foreign 12-year-olds who try to keep their shape to impress the guys in an effort to spite those self-conscious girls like me. Land of freedom and opportunity, land of mind twisters, I would say. Nobody take it personally. I have gone through my ultimate trauma to last me a lifetime. So don't you give me the sullen face. Now that we are calm and collected, let's go really poop. I'm going to do what no other author in his right mind has done. Take you to my ultimate personal business. I went to the bathroom, enjoyed my serenity and calmness, pooped all my horror out of my system, and thought to myself that this is just a vacation, no panic, no worry. This twistedness is just temporary. Then I started flushing the toilet. Look what I see inside the toilet. The flushing water went swish, swish, swish around the pot, and it took some time for the water to settle down and go through the hole, the pipe. I flushed the toilet 4 times just to adjust my eyes to what I was seeing. What's wrong? America is not governed by simple laws of gravity too? I wondered. This time, in full curiosity, without any tears, I screamed for my aunt, and she came down and looked at me before the next flight of stairs. What's wrong this time? She asked, prepared for anything. What's wrong with your toilet? I asked uprightly, without any additional detail, expecting her to know. My aunt wrinkled her forehead in thought and then asked, What, we need to call the plumber? It doesn't flush. It doesn't flush? It flushes all right, but you need to see for yourself how it flushes, I urged her. I brought her in front of the toilet as if it was a spectacle and a magic trick as I fascinatingly flushed the toilet. She looked at it as if it was unimpressive and usual. Girl, the toilet flushes as usual. What is the big deal? She asked. Anna, are you blind or what? Are you not noticing what the water is doing? Didn't you learn some basic knowledge of science in school? I challenged her and flushed the water again. See? I asked her expectantly for her to notice the surrealism. What science? She asked me confusedly. What are you talking about? The water goes around in circles like the Israelites went around in circles for 40 years in the desert. Anna, the water's supposed to fall down straight into the pipe, like waterfalls falling straight down and not in circles, because of the force of gravity. Why are you making a fool out of me for? I explained. Finally, she looked like it dawned on her, remembering that I am just newly arrived from Israel. Oh, Alina, there are different forces of gravity here in New York. That is why the water acts that way. This time I was satisfied with that explanation. You can't argue with what nature does, with the way God constructed the world. So I had no problem adapting into it. It looked rather magically magnificent for the first period of time. After establishing all these details, I spent my vacation rather interestingly at my aunt's house. Both Morsha and my aunt were hospitable to me. Dovie was endearing. Grandma loved to be around me and doted on me. We always did things, traveled places. I was very relieved that Morsha spoke Hebrew. I did not mind their lifestyle because I knew it was temporary. After a month of being in my aunt's house for the second month of my vacation, we went to Willie in California just as was planned, who this time around lived with his new wife, Rita. Rita had a daughter named Sophia, who was engaged to a guy named Gil. Both of them worked in Disneyland at the time, and they took us there. We had the ultimate time of our lives. I also went to see Willie's son, Igor, for a day. Igor had a huge mansion-like house, which I think cost millions of dollars. Igor took us very warmly and talked about his boys, how they were resistant to studies. Then, when we were in the car, he asked me, much in a paternal voice, "Girl, is there anything that you wish to have?" I unhesitatingly replied, "I want an MP3 Walkman." At the time, there were no iPods. There was Walkman. Igor bought the fanciest Walkman in the store, and it served me for a long time. His kindness warmed my heart. Sophia downloaded some Shakira and Nelly songs for me, and I was a happy camper. We returned back to my aunt and Morsha's household a week before my flight back home, and Mom gave me a call at around mid-August. "Alina, how are you doing?" Mom asked with great elation. "Great, Mom. I'm ready to go home. I miss you," I stated. "Girl, you're going to stay. I'm leaving back to Ukraine, selling the house and everything. You won't be able to live with me." She said it in such a matter of business, so calmly, so like this was what was agreed upon us, as if this was what was supposed to happen all along. I felt an intense rush of blood go through my head, and my fist clenched. I have never in my life felt so angry. I was talking to her while being in the back of the house, where there was a huge field of garden. I was talking to her on a cordless phone while being on the swings next to the house. My palms became sweatier than the time they were sweaty during the flight. "Mother, you promised," I shouted into the distance, and I heard my echo reverberating back to me. I didn't even cry. I was literally ready to choke somebody. There were no tears of loss in me. There was just an intense feeling of incensed anger towards Mom. If she was anywhere near, I think this time around I would have won the battle. She was silent. "What's going to happen to school?" I asked, enraged, but still trying to embrace myself. "You are going to go to school there," she announced, without the slightest sense of sympathy or guilt that she had lied to me all along. "Mom, don't you know that Anna is religious and I don't like that kind of lifestyle?" I asked her, expecting her to understand. She simply said, "You will get used to it." Thinking back to it, if I had known about her experience in the Bedouin place, I would have asked her why she did not get used to that lifestyle there, to the same expectation that she wanted me to get used to my aunt's lifestyle. She was asking me to do the unimaginable. After our call, I just didn't know what to do with myself, which corner to go to, cry or shout. I felt officially abandoned by Mom. I felt that Mom had chosen a path that would be easier for her not to bother to take care of me. It wasn't like she was doing a lot to raise me either. Disciplined myself and wasn't too much of a burden for her. Maybe the reason she wanted me away was because she couldn't find a steady boyfriend because of me. She traded me for seeking out some additional adventure. That thought infuriated me. Grandma said that it was all for the best, that Willie thought that it was best that I stay too. After my conversation with Mom, I had to talk to Dad. Thankfully, even though there was an everlasting feud between Grandma and him, I need to give much credit to my aunt because she allowed me to talk to Dad. "Dad," my voice was hoarse. "I am staying," I continued. Inside, I felt both of our streaks of disappointment through the phone. My dad didn't say "I told you so." He didn't guilt me at the time the way he makes me feel guilty now about it, ages after the event, probably understanding at the time that I was hurting about the news just as much as he was, and there was no point in contributing to it. He tried to help me cope with the situation by saying, Alina, the economy is going down the drain here. There might not be as many opportunities here as there are in the United States. Maybe it's best that you stay. When I talked to Dad about this conversation now, he doesn't recall that he commented about the economy. He said that there was no chance that he would talk to a 12-year-old about the economy. Dad was talking to me about Yeltsin at 6 years old and throwing far-fetched concepts at me throughout my entire childhood, and he tells me that he didn't mention the state of Israel's economy to me. Today, Dad says in denial to me that he wanted me to come home at the time, sounding as if I'm accusing him of disowning me. But I remember that conversation as clearly as yesterday. I tried to explain that Dad had helped me cope with my situation, but at the same time, I'm sure that Dad was discomforted by that announcement himself, even though he didn't directly say it. In September 9th, 2003, Mom left a jubilant voice message over the phone that she had arrived back in Kyiv, Ukraine. I was still determined to leave. That day, I went outside the house and into the street, into the roads and driveways, not a penny in my pocket, not a plan to know anything. I looked up to the meandering roads, not knowing where to go, and in the middle of the road, I knelt down and cried for about 5 minutes. Nobody noticed me, not one car passed by. Then, after I flushed the tears, I, in surrender to my circumstances, went home. I wanted so badly to go home back to Israel, but it was out of my powers. I had to adjust to a new language, a new culture with the imposing religion. I had to let go of all my friends, everything I loved and cherished, as well as my own dad. I felt responsibility of not knowing better. I should have listened to Dad's warning when I had the chance. Very typical to my nature, though. I do not learn until I stumble on the consequences of my own mistakes.